All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Truth of Therapy Sessions. I believe we're on episode 13 now, which is
Ooh.
ooh.
Unlucky 13.
I was thinking that myself when I started. I was like, oh, here we go. But it should be fine. Let's see how it goes. I have a special guest with me today. You may have seen already if you've not been living under a rock on YouTube. This is Meegs B.
What's up, guys?
There we go, excellent. And today we're just going to have a chat about her journey to waking up, among many other topics I've bullet pointed down here, which I think she may have some interesting insight to share with us. So how's it going, Meegs?
It's going pretty good. I just got off work. I'm just chilling at my coffee shop, being a weirdo, staying after hours.
In a coffee shop.
I'm on my third cup of coffee for tonight, so I'm basically never going to get to sleep. So.
Well, I'm on my first for the morning, so obviously we have a bit of a time disparity here, maybe in the UK. For me, it's sunrise, and for you, it's midnight. So
right.
I'm not sure how this will work for my viewers. We have a bit of a weird mix-up of weirdos who are up really early in the UK and weirdos who are up really late in America. So it should be interesting. But yeah, great stuff. Well, today I just want to talk about your journey, Meegs, and how you really got into the truth, and how you've dealt with learning the truth as well. The whole point of these sessions is to help others that out there listening. Basically they are not alone, and their story is everybody else's story in this movement. So I'll give it to you. And how did you get into this? How did it all begin for you?
Oh man, it's so weird to sit here and think about it now, because it really is, in my most recent video, I talk about specifically the Mandela Effect, like life before the Mandela Effect and life after the Mandela Effect. And the Mandela Effect for me is like the demarcation line, like between these huge phases in my life. And it, you could substitute truth in general, like being red pilled for the Mandela Effect. You could, any truth, can wake someone up and cause that demarcation line to be laid in your life, where your life is never going to be the same afterwards. So for me, I kind of woke up to a ton of different truths at once, and the Mandela Effect just happened to be one of them. But I think for me, it started with the Franklin cover-up. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it had to do with elite child sex trafficking. Which and Satanism in the government, which I had no clue about, at all. And this man, it's almost hard to even talk about it because it's so vile. You know what I mean? Like organized sex trafficking.
We have the same problem in the UK. Trust me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've just been listening to the Romola D Reports channel. She interviewed an ex-police officer that talked about going undercover and investigating all the child sex trafficking rings in the UK, and how horrified he was when he was told he couldn't speak freely about it, and he basically just had to shut up to keep his job.
I have that video on my channel as well. I uploaded that today. Batches from the front. It was a London police officer. I believe he said something in there which really shocked me, is that police officers have quotas to meet every night where they have to take in a certain amount of prostitutes. And it's really easy to process an adult off the streets. You get into the police station, half an hour, you've done the paperwork, they're in the cells, you're back out on the streets. And they have incentives and extra pay to bring in like 10 prostitutes every night as a target. But if they find a child on the streets and bring them in, then the whole night is done. They're in the office all night. They're not going back out there. They're not going to make their bonus. So they're actually not, well, they don't have any incentive to save children on the streets. They just don't have an incentive to do it. So they ignore them. So it's quite disturbing. But sorry.
Wow, that is unreal. I mean, and that's what he was talking about too. I forget the name of the guy she was interviewing, but I mean, it was just incredible. And the more you research it, with the topic of Satanism in the government, which will inevitably lead to organized child sex trafficking rings, there's once you wake up to it, you can't go back to sleep. Like so many other truths, once you're aware of it, it should shock you into making a change in your life, and you should want to learn as much as you can about it, even though these are some unsavory topics for sure. I mean, to make a change, any kind of change, we first must be cognizant of what's going on in the world, and knowledge is power. That's something I try to convey on my channel. We can't just be ostriches and emus and stick our head in the sand. It's like not going to do anyone any good. Mm-hmm. So that's basically one of the first ways I was red pilled, and then that led to so many other things. But I heard about it on this podcast. It was called The Last Podcast on the Left, and it was a podcast about serial killers, like the lives of serial killers, and they had this one segment on Satanism and the government. It was like a 3-part, 3 episodes, and since I've listened to that is basically what red pilled me. Since I've listened to that, I've realized even that original podcast, like that, it's so highly edited and skewed towards giving you, a little bit of truth. And then they basically at the end say, well, if this is true, that would be weird and disturbing, but more than likely it's not actually true, like blah 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 blah, so it's like, even then, I mean, it stunned me to realize how controlled even like a mid-level popularity podcast could be. They basically have their opinions edited and controlled and skewed to not expose too much, but to keep the attention of the audience, and that they even did an episode on 9/11, and they said they had 12 researchers researching like what the real deal was behind 9/11, and they completely fudged it. They got everything wrong. Mm-hmm. And then they presented this story that, maybe Dick Cheney was the one that did it, and the Tower 7's kind of weird. There's something fishy about Tower 7, but probably no big deal. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is just another, almost like they'll just give you a little taste of the truth, but they'll, direct you to a whole different door that, doesn't lead you down any rabbit holes. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's like seeing the level of control of the media in all aspects of it, radio shows, podcasts, news on the TV, movies. I mean, seeing the level of control of that was almost more disturbing than anything, because then it's like, oh, who can I trust? Can't trust NPR, certainly can't trust any mainstream news, vehicles or whatever. I can't trust the podcasts I listen to. Like, that's horribly disturbing, and then it alienates you.
Well, personally, I like to assume ignorance before I assume malevolence. So most people just don't know that they're lying. They don't actually know. They actually, that's just how they think and feel about the subjects. They don't know the misleading people necessarily. It's just,
right, and that could very well be also. But this particular podcast, one of the guys, Henry Zabrowski, is like a famous. He's on Adult Swim, like TV shows playing Satan, and so it's like
he doesn't know that, But it's just my way of not thinking everybody around me is evil, Just first, maybe they are evil, maybe they actually are.
Right. That's a good point, And when you get thrust into this world of quote unquote conspiracy theories, one of the first things you do is you just have your shackles up, and you just are extremely, you are your behavior gets modified to be overly paranoid and freaked out by everything and everyone. But it's so much better if we can, just face things like one thing at a time, just give people the benefit of the doubt still as much as we can.
Absolutely. Well, it's a process. We've all been there, and this is what this talk is for. It's to kind of make other people realize, there's another way to handle this information. I get it's crazy. I get you're probably terrified and all over the place right now, but there'll come a point in 3 years' time where you've calmed down a little bit and you start to really, you've absorbed the information, and then you've got to pick up the pieces and carry on with life. Life still goes on, even after you've learned these things. And a lot of people don't really know how to cope. And it breaks my heart. It really, this is what I see in the truth movement, millions, well, not millions, hundreds of thousands of people just broken from learning the truth. That their entire life is ruined. And when you're in that zone, I've seen people make some terrible mistakes and make their life worse, not better, with this information. And it's just not at all what I want to see. It's not what I want to encourage with my channel. So this is what these talks are really for. You know, now obviously you've explained how your first taste of truth was understanding that child sex trafficking rings are being hidden from us. That's a horrible pill to swallow for anybody. But that's still kind of surface level stuff. The news talks about this, even in England. If the news is talking about it, it's not deep enough, in my opinion. There's more going on behind this, obviously. And then you start to realize there's Satanism in the government, from what you've told me here. And these two are obviously linked. There's nothing you can do about it. They are the reason there are child sex trafficking rings is because there is Satanism in the government. So from there, when did you start getting into the weirder stuff? You know, the really out there information.
Well, gosh, it's just like it's like a domino type, you know, experience where one truth leads to another truth and another truth and another truth and another truth. Pretty soon you have a whole room full of dominoes that have fallen down, and you're like, life is, you know, one big mess. It's just, you know, collapsed, just completely just destroyed. Or, you know, because you realize like how the extent to which you've been lied to about basically everything. So flat Earth was kind of the next thing that I got into. And I know that that's a divisive issue. And, you know, I respect sort of both sides. And I know there's more, that there's like concave Earth, convex Earth, hollow Earth, you know, that people still believe, you know, there's the Planet X camp and, you know, all this. And who is to say, like, I mean, you can't just go up in a rocket ship and see for yourself, obviously, but there is so very, very much evidence that we do live on a flat plane. I mean, as far as where it ends and the dome and everything, I mean, there's still, the jury's still out, and we can't measure these things. But it is so interesting to research. And 2 years later, I mean, I'm still very, very, very much flat Earth, and I have like stacks of research at home, and I actually post on every single YouTube video that I watch, please research flat Earth, even if it's just music or video, you know, movies or whatever. Because you know what, I was woken up, that is actually, you know, I had come across the Franklin cover-up, but that didn't quite get me completely red-pilled. I had to be told about the flat Earth to really like get things going by a limo driver in Chicago. And he was so bold, and I really liked how he approached waking people up. You know, he kind of he was confident about telling me, you know, maybe you should look into you know, the fact that there's no real pictures of Earth from space. There's no real photographs and whatever. He just started rattling things off really smooth and very confident. And it was an incredible tactic, because it caught me off guard. You know, all this stuff he was saying, it just seemed totally bizarre and weird. But the way he approached it was just like, I know this, and I just want you to know this too, and you can get into it or not, but I'm just going to tell you like something you should look into. And it impacted me so much, the way he was telling me about it. Like, and I didn't know anything about it myself, so I went home and looked it up, and you know, and then the next 2 days it was just like, whoa, you know, I totally fell down the rabbit hole with that, you know. And I already knew like weird stuff was going on with the Franklin cover-up and stuff, and you know, so with the YouTube suggested videos, that's how you get into the Mandela Effect. I think the flat Earth leads you into the Mandela Effect, and vice versa. And then, you know, I had a big 9/11 moment too, and it was just everything all together. But I will never forget to this day the way a complete stranger woke me up and like totally red-pilled me with just a really like cavalier but like sincere attitude. It was just totally confident and like, hey, you can look at this if you want, but I'm just gonna let you know that the Earth is flat. Like, I don't know if I can emulate that myself when I try to tell others now. I'm more, and every person's different. Every person's gonna have their own flavor of, how you can get others involved and how you can wake others up. And that's incredible because we're all different people and we all have different skills and talents and whatnot. But
that's the wonder of YouTube, isn't it? That's why what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. And we need different voices out there with different opinions, different styles, shall we say, different personalities as well. I mean, at the end of the day, this is an old sales phrase, I suppose, but people don't buy products, people buy people. And that's kind of a classic rule for life. It's sad that people are that fickle, but it's just kind of the way people think, And if you have an idea to sell, so let's call it the Mandela Effect or the flat earth or whatever the truth you want to sell is, you are selling it and you are the salesman to the person who's going to listen to what you're telling them. And, if you're confident, if you come across as, bold, like most good salesmen, do, and you can convince that person, that this is the best thing ever and they want to buy this product. Well, they're not buying the product, they're buying you, they're buying the guy who came up to them dead confident and, gave off that vibe of, I want to buy this product off this person. So a lot of people don't know that, though, when they come into the truth movement. They start a channel and they start screaming and ranting and raving and making videos with incredibly terrifying doomsday images of the world exploding with meteors crashing down. You have usually Requiem for a Dream in the background or something like that, and just epic music.
Requiem for a Dream, right? Everything's horrible. The world's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. We all know what I'm talking about when I say this. If you were around in 2012 when the world was ending, from the Mayan calendar, you'll remember that this was the truth of movement, and I didn't like the image it had because I knew this. I was showing these videos to my friends and they were like, "What, Paul? What the hell are you looking at? And what are you showing me here? What is this?"
Right.
But the information's valid. They said, "Yeah, but no, it isn't. Look at this quality of video. This is stupid." It's like, okay, so there's a problem.
Oh my gosh, that's what I try to tell my friends too with the flat Earth videos, because we it sounds like we both went to art school, and you could say the the style, the flavor of conspiracy videos is not very palatable to most that are artistically inclined, and they look like just cheesy. Really, you just get a big pile of with the graphics and conspiracy videos, and it's like people can't get past the poor graphics sometimes, or the flashy like black screen with the big red letters like doom and gloom. They can't get past it. But really, I mean, the information is so interesting. If people could just get past the graphics and the graphic design.
Well, this is the thing. I'm quite an open person. I could see past it. I understood. Not everyone's a graphic designer. Not everyone has a brilliant tech-minded. But the information was there and it was solid. It's the same with chemtrail. The idea of chemtrails as well, which is one of my first subjects. That woke me up. And I got involved with an activist group with chemtrails, and they were in the streets going up to people, trying to talk to them about chemtrails, pointing up to the sky, saying, "Do you see it? Do you see the line?" And it's true, chemtrails are actually happening, and the effects are going to be detrimental if we can figure out what the real motive is behind it. There's clearly some reason why they're doing it, but the people who were approaching randomers in the public and screaming at them, "You need to look up at the sky, man! Look up at the sky! Don't you see?" It wasn't working. It just was not working. People looking at it and thinking, "Oh, I need to get out of here fast," dragging the kid along with them. It's kind of, don't look at him, just don't make eye contact, just keep walking, And I was filming them, I was with the group, and that was my first observation. The information is right, but the people talking about it are not good salesmen. They don't know how to handle the information and get it to the public. So I started the channel, and I've been trying to critique the movement ever since. But I am one of you. I believe everything, pretty much every theory out there. I will take every theory on board and add it to the puzzle. I'm not going to dismiss anything, but at the same time, if you're making the movement look terrible, someone has to say something, and it seems to be the movement has got much better. Not saying thanks to me, but it seems to have gotten much better as the years have gone on, and more characters and personalities have arrived with more calm ideas and more collective way of talking about these things, and that's what we need more of. And your channel is a good example. It seems to be bringing many people to waking up to all sorts of ideas and truths. And Jesse Spots is actually here as well in the chat. I've just noticed.
Oh, cool. I can't see the chat, but what's up, Jesse? I'm a big fan of your work. I've caught you on some of Scarab's shows. You rock.
Yeah, he's here. He says, I can tell already Paul is going against the groupthink in a lot of these groups. This is going to be good. So, well, thanks, Jesse. Yeah. Jesse's cool. I've had him on the channel before talking about jesters, actually, and the clown things, but I've been on his show a few times.
Oh, wow.
I love his channel. I think he's great. And the format is great. It's just him with a camera talking from the heart. And that's what people want. That's what people really want. They don't want dramatic music, and they don't want, flashy imagery necessarily, although it does have its place. Really, people just want to listen to somebody else say what they believe so they don't feel crazy. So
right, absolutely.
For me.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, to even start a channel. And it's, people think they have to be, maybe it holds some people back when they think they have to be like master video editors or, have expensive software or whatever. But really, the most effective way to reach someone is to be a relatable human being. Just be yourself, I mean, some of the most popular channels, I mean, there's so much going on about Richie from Boston now, whether he's a shill or not, but
yeah, I saw that.
But it is interesting that, basically like someone like him, a lot of his videos are just like him in a car, or, and so you don't have to have very much, you don't have to get like Final Cut Pro or whatever to have a successful truth channel. Sometimes it's just so refreshing just to hear a human communicate their experience as a human, waking up, getting red pilled, and what they see, just sharing what they see, what they notice. Because it's like once you wake up to some of these truths, it's just like there's no end to the gaslighting. We all have this like internal voice in our head that's telling us like, shut up, you're making a fool of yourself. People are going to see you. You're making a total fool of yourself. You're with you're with a cult or something, are you part of a cult? Like what's happened to you? But that's just kind of the residual from the voices we hear from our friends and family who maybe don't understand, things we're talking about because they haven't researched it.
Well, I consider it a PTSD support group. That's pretty much what this is. And there's a lot of people out there, like I said, whose lives have been shattered and they just need help picking up the pieces. So this is what these talks are really for. Moving on just a little bit. We're talking about shills earlier. Obviously, we have Rich from Boston, and I think a call for an uprising accusing him of being not necessarily a shill, but just not a very intelligent person. And when I see these type of fights happen, and they always crop up every year, there's always two major channels that go at it. And it's just a conflict of personality, I think, at the end of the day. And I don't believe it's constructive to go around calling people shills, because you don't know that. And you'll look pretty stupid when you get proven wrong if that's the case. And it's just not helpful. It doesn't make the movement look very good. And that's kind of what I'm trying to happening, because I want more people to join. But I can't help doing this. I do it for every channel out there. I type in the name of the person and put expose next to it. I did the same for you. And it seems like you do have people out there, or the odd one or two people out there, who seem to want to call you insane, make out that you're maybe mentally ill, and it's really out of offense that you're saying the Bible has changed. Mainly, that seems to be what I'm seeing. Do you have any comments on this yourself? How have you dealt with these? It's never nice when someone makes a video about you like this. How have you found being called a shill and being attacked?
Right. It's so interesting because, it's hard enough to wake up to some of this stuff and to just have it in the back of your mind, or the front of your mind, or the middle of your mind, day to day to day. It's just like you just dealing with this stuff. And like you said, the PTSD that goes with waking up is quite more than enough. But to deal with then people who are coming at you with so much hate on top of it, and making you sort of think like, oh my gosh, am I actually really just totally wrong about some of the stuff? Or, and it's always good to question things you're saying, especially if you have a platform on a, on social media like this, you want to be pretty sure that you're putting out accurate information, or as accurate as it can possibly be. But I think a lot of people, whether they're paid or not, or just people kind of full of hate, there is definitely a presence, a group of people kind of put out there to shut people down that are trying to speak the truth, and I cannot figure out if some of the Bible changes, the anti-Mandela Effect Bible changes people, I can't figure out if some of them are actually Satanists or paid or whatnot, because it's like almost they go about it as if it's a job for them. It's almost as if they're getting paid. It's like some of these people that attack people that are talking about the Mandela Effect, it's like they put out such prolific anti-Mandela Effect work. It's almost as if they're getting paid for it. So I can't quite figure it out. It's been like about a year and a half since I've had my channel up, and I get hate comments like sometimes 30 a day. It's just like so much hate funneled at you, and that's something the Mandela Effect community has experienced at large. This like extreme amounts of hate, and it's like you can see some of these people that are coming against the Mandela Effect people, they are happy to have a video up just with the content creator's name and exposed right after it. It's like, as long as they can just get their video up, whether it's like 3 or 4 minutes long or whatever, then it creates a seed of doubt for someone who's just looking on a surface level and seeing a content creator. If they see even a totally unfounded in logic video about someone saying this person's been exposed, then it's like Snopes, just saying like, oh, this has been debunked. But if there's no logic supporting it, it doesn't. There may not even be logic supporting that, but people see that and it creates doubt instantly. And I think that this is even in, I think Truth Stream Media did a video about paid shills, and they actually found a document, like I don't know how many pages of documents, but this is like a tactic that the actual government shills use. They create seeds of doubt in the comments, attacking your character, these ad hominem attacks, and even just 1 or 2 comments like that creates enough doubt, enough plausible deniability or whatever, that someone just if there's cognitive dissonance happening with someone, one negative comment is enough to make them be like, okay, well, this person might be fake, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll just click away. So it's really difficult to see people making videos like this, and there's a couple people that do it just constantly, and I can see that it freaks people out, and it maybe really does impede people from making videos. But when that started happening to me, I was just like, you know what, the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth, and I don't care what people have to say about it. If I feel that it's the truth and I pray about it and I research it and it feels real to me, and I feel like other people need to learn these truths, then I don't care what people have to say at all. To the opposition, I mean, you have to speak. You have to expose these things, especially stuff like child sex trafficking, and I mean, especially stuff like that, because it's just like, people are going to come against that, but the truth speaks for itself. The truth stands for itself, and the people that are attacking people in the Mandela community and Flat Earth or whatever, it only just adds to the credibility, I think, of what we're saying. It's almost like the Bible being attacked in the Mandela Effect speaks volumes, because why would that be targeted if it didn't have real truth in it? Why would we be targeted with these character smears and, you know, ad hominem attacks if we didn't have real truth to say. So,
you know you're over the target when you're getting flack. That's again another phrase.
Right.
It's quite popular in the truth movement, and I think it holds some value. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I'm sorry this happens to you. I've had my own trolls in the past as well. And one thing I have noticed, and this is when I observe other people's exposed videos as well, the ones doing the exposing are always claiming to be Christians themselves.
Right.
Always. It always seems to be the case. And they obsessively make videos all the time. They dedicate their entire channel to going straight after this one individual. And they always claim that this person is deceiving the flock or something like that. That's usually the general vibe of the message they have. And, you know, they are possessed by demons or something like that is usually a common thing I always hear as well. And they don't listen to this person. They aren't really a follower of Jesus Christ. I am. If you aren't following how I follow Jesus, then they must be evil. They must have demons. They must be a paid shill. And that's how they attack the person all the time. And a lot of Christians out there, you know, maybe mainly the ones who went to church, who are easily swayed by stuff like this. I have just noticed. Now, I didn't go to church myself. I became a Christian later on in life through learning all of this stuff. I was a dogmatic atheist for a long time. Then I was a New Age spiritualist, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, you know, it's God. Silly me. But most people who grew up in this environment of the church, because I've tried to go into churches and I can't do it. It's not that I can't stand these people, but it kind of is that as well. There's something about them that really makes me feel uneasy because they're quite naive and easily offended as well, is what I've learned. And they're not willing to talk about the stuff I'm interested in relation to Jesus, you know, and God and demonology and child sacrifice things. They just don't want to talk about it. So when you do talk about things which are quite disturbing, they think you're disturbed and they start to
right.
You know, and
I've noticed that so much. It's just like they get angry at you for bringing up, you know, extremely disturbing topics. But the thing is, if we don't bring them up, who's going to? And how's it going to stop if no one talks about it? Don't put it on me that I'm somehow creating or responsible for the problem of child sex trafficking just because I'm bringing it up.
It's called gaslighting, isn't it? And this is a narcissistic tactic to the core. This is a psychopathic tactic to the core. They call you crazy. You know, you're crazy for even talking about these things, you know, and it's kind of, they do make you doubt yourself. Am I crazy? Maybe I am crazy, you know, and that's gaslighting to the core. And just don't fall for it. Just ignore it. And do you. Let them do their thing. You know, if they want to waste their time attacking you as an individual, that speaks more volumes about them than it does about you at the end of the day. Anyway, that's a horrible topic to talk about. I thought I'd just touch on it because I noticed you had your own attack videos there. So we'll leave it there. Let's move on to more.
It's made me develop like a strong callus, I'll have to say, just in general. I've built up a YouTube callus, and it's like, I'm just, you know, I will stand for the truth, like no matter what, you know, I don't care how many more crazy Christians call me a Satanist. I'm not, and I'm just spreading the truth, so. Good,
keep it up. Right, there's another topic, obviously, I noticed you talk about quite a lot on your channel, next to the Mandela Effect and the flat Earth. And obviously, I'm sure the people listening to this have heard those subjects to death, and they know what it entails. And we're pretty much preaching to the choir here on this channel. But there's one interesting topic I find fascinating, which I admit I don't know enough about. And every time I try and ask people who claim to be victims of this, they never reply, and they never want to tell me anything, probably out of paranoia, and I wouldn't blame them. But it's gang stalking and targeted individuals. And I noticed you did an interview with a lady on your channel who claims to be attacked, you know, and gang stalked. And can you, as somebody who's really focused on this, teach me more about what is this phenomenon and how does it affect people and how deep rooted it really is this in society?
Yeah, absolutely. Gang stalking is one of those things that people, it's so alarming of a topic. It's so deeply disturbing to people's sense of normalcy that it is so hard to get people to understand how much of an issue it actually is. You know, you can say, I mean, I still struggle with my elevator pitch to kind of bring to educate people on gang stalking and targeted individuals. I actually had somebody ask me today what gang stalking was because he had overheard another person and I talking about it, and he asked me what it was, and I just stood there and I looked at him and I was like, I wish I could communicate it to you, but it's so involved. I couldn't even summarize it in 2 sentences. But you know what? For you, I will try, Paul. So so basically, gang stalking is kind of this really not effective term to use. It's kind of like, you know, the Mandela Effect doesn't describe like accurately like quantum shifting, reality shifting. You know, I just you can't explain that in just 1 or 2 sentences, and the Mandela Effect term doesn't do it justice. But gang stalking is basically a term that's an umbrella term to basically signify the phenomenon that happens to a group of people. A lot of people estimate this group of people that are being gang stalked and targeted to be around 1 million or multiple millions worldwide. This is a global phenomenon. The intelligence agencies in every country around the world are knowledgeable about this program. It's almost like McCarthyism. You get it's actually started with the Phoenix Project in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War. But it's basically this blacklist that you get put on if you upset somebody that has access to either electronic harassment weapons or that are knowledgeable about this program. Usually people that get gang stalked are whistleblowers, people that come out against the CDC or the NSA or the CIA and whatnot. If they once were assets to these entities, now they've become liabilities, and now they're getting gang stalked. And what gang stalking actually is, it manifests in a few different ways. Basically, we can think of it as sort of all-out attack on your psyche. It's like a psychological operation tailored to make someone think they're going schizophrenic and end up killing themselves. And if you research the Phoenix program, there's like manuals on how to do this. Also, it was in Nazi Germany. I think there was this German project called Zersetzung, and it means disintegration. And it was like a psychological operation against an individual where multiple people involved in neighborhood policing, like neighborhood watch groups, would get orders to go against an individual and show up and do these crazy things, like show up in all red, and everybody in the neighborhood would walk past their house in all red. And these people would be part of these like neighborhood watch programs, but they would be secret stalking programs to make a target think they're going so crazy that they commit suicide, and therefore they're silenced. Or if they try to speak out against like weird things they see. Part of the stalking was breaking into a targeted individual's house and rearranging things, that like miscellaneous objects, putting them in different places, not stealing anything, but maybe putting ketchup in the shampoo bottle, or even just a cheaper brand of a different color shampoo in the shampoo bottle, making you think you're going crazy. So when you talk about this to other people, anything you say gets written off. They think you're crazy. So if you're doing excellent work trying to be a whistleblower or trying to write a book exposing some of these intelligence agencies or whatever you're trying to expose, then you start saying you're getting followed by helicopters, or you're getting followed by people in red, or you're getting followed by people with Target bags, like they just came out of Target, but they're trying to subliminally show you, that you're being targeted. If you start saying that you're being stalked in this way, in really specific, strange ways, then people are going to write off everything else you're saying that might be exposing truth. So there could be physical targeting, just like the stalking on the street level, people coming to your house, doing street theater, which is maybe playing a game of ball. People would like throw a ball back and forth at the same time on your front lawn every day, and then just leave or something, you know, stuff like that. They could also be experiencing electronic attacks, like electromagnetic weapons, directed energy weapons. Midge Mathis actually is a targeted individual. Romola D and Ella Free have interviewed her. She talks about researching companies like Raytheon and the RAND Corporation, and finding she looks into real estate acquisitions too, and she can see government entities buying specific houses like close to her in the neighborhood, and they hire people to move next to her basically and set up these directed energy weapons and beam it into her house and attack her with radiation. And so she has pictures to prove it. And it's not just her saying this, but the electronic weapons, the directed energy weapons, are a huge part of gang stalking as well. They're invisible, silent weapons for a war that's quietly being waged on regular innocent citizens globally. This is part of what has been outlined in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document that was leaked. I assume from I think it was from Harvard University. But it was leaked. It's this, I guess it's like 60-page document about weapons for silent wars. Basically, you can think of us being in World War III already with the corporations that are governments in every country, basically declaring silent war on its own people. And so with this program, it's a global program. You can try to move to a different country if you're being targeted, but your targeting will not stop. It will not cease. It'll just maybe happen in a different way. But what's so troubling with targeted individuals is the fact that they cannot escape their targeting, no matter where they go. They can't. It's a global program. So for anyone interested in learning about this, just type in on YouTube gang stalking basic intro. There's a really good video of someone reading all the ways that you can be targeted, because their friend was targeted and he was actually killed. But he's just reading off all the ways, all the things that happened to his friend. I think it's like a 2-hour video, but basically the best way to go about learning about gang stalking is to just start researching people's testimonies about it, because they seem so outlandish and so just sci-fi that you won't like invisible microwave weapons, you know, people having induced dreams, and people getting machine gunned with directed energy weapons, and it sounds crazy. It sounds totally nuts, but
I have a story of my own life where I feel, and maybe I don't know if I was being demonically attacked or if I was being attacked by some kind of VMF weapon, some sort of directed energy weapon. But if I give you the description of this event, do you think it parallels from what you may have researched yourself? I'm not sure myself, but I was in the living room. It was late. It was about 11 in the evening. It'd been a long day. I sat down on my sofa. My dog was in front of me on the carpet. And I started, funnily enough, watching a round Saturn's eye video through YouTube on my television. My laptop was HDMI plugged in. I had an hour earlier invited a friend over. So that's the setting. So I'm sat there on the settee and then watching this round Saturn's eye video. Then suddenly my darkness started to seep in from the corners of my vision. Black is the only word I can describe it as, just pure black. And it was seeping in closer and closer. And then the room started to kind of spin as though I was drunk, but I wasn't drunk. I was as sober as I could be. As much as I smoked cannabis and everything, this had never happened to me before. This was something else, and the room was spinning. I was spinning. I was very disorientated. The dog in front of me was also nuzzling her face into the ground, making weird snarling sounds. And I was just losing it. I thought I was dying, basically. My vision was disappearing in front of me, and the room was melting and spinning around, and I felt like I was going down. And the only thing I could do in that moment, and the only thing I knew to do, was literally say the words, "Jesus, help me." As best I could force it out. You know, like it's like when you're in sleep paralysis, you can barely speak, but I got it out. And as soon as I said the word "me," my phone went off, and I snapped out of it instantly, and I was back in the room. And it was my friend I had messaged earlier saying on my way. So I thought it was interesting that in response to "Jesus help me," I got a message saying on my way, but it was the phone. It was, funnily enough, the phone going off that snapped me out of it. I don't know if it was the sound of the ring of "Jesus save me." I think it's a lot of things, but it seemed, is that energy weapon related? Is that frequency related? Did the phone going off interrupt the signal maybe? Or what was it? What do you think? Was it demonic? Was it electromagnetic? What do you think? Have you heard of that before?
I mean, there's absolutely no question in my mind that there is an unseen world all around us. There is a demonic realm. There are actually angels too. And I mean, we're talking about spirit beings that are when people have experience like near-death experience, they say when they're in the spirit, it's so much more real than when you're in the flesh. I mean, so God has put a veil mercifully over our eyes, so we can't see this world, but it has knocked me over the head with how real it is. And I heard a demonic whisper when I was kind of waking up to God, to the fact that God is real. I know they're real. I've heard them. But anyway, how it's so incredible how what people's experiences with the directed energy weapons and the pain you feel when you're being hit with these weapons. Well, people say the same thing when they do stuff like channel the Kundalini spirit. You know, I've heard so many testimonies of people messing with Kundalini and opening their third eye and having a rush of the demonic energy coming in. Sometimes they don't even know what to call it. They don't know it's demonic, but sometimes people will describe the exact same types of pain that people are talking about with the directed energy weapons and the microwave auditory hallucinations, or the visual hallucinations when they close their eyes. Sometimes they'll say they'll see movies like pornographic images or horrible, disgusting beheadings or whatever. People that are targeted will say that they'll see these things like projected in their brain almost. But at the same time, there's so many people that have testimonies of the same thing once they've opened their third eye. So it's hard to say, you know, what exactly is at play here. If the demonic, and I know the demonic can operate through electromagnetism and electricity in general. They can sort of use that to have power and manifest more strongly in the physical. I know this from so many testimonies I've watched, and it's just how do you? It's not, to me, it's not either or. I think it's definitely a mix of both. Maybe the demonic is working through these weapons that they have sometimes, but sometimes they don't even need that, it seems. So it's hard to say, but I know there's patents for these directed energy weapons and microwave weapons. You can build them yourself. There's so much online about how to even construct these weapons yourself. And people like Cody Snodgrass, who are whistleblowers, like Black Ops whistleblowers, he says he's like seen these weapons, these directed energy weapons, and held them in his hand. So it's like they clearly exist to me, but it seems as though they're not always needed for these kind of attacks to happen. And I interviewed two people that have been gang stalked, Jeremiah Cohen and Simon Moore. They're on my channel. They said that they they've brought it to an end by praying and turning from sin and just drawing closer to Jesus. And they say that the people that were stalking them, they could see their eyes change when they'd have interactions with these people. They'd see, you know, people make fun of people who talk about like the reptilians and whatever, but I've heard this so many times where people see like a demonic manifestation surface through someone's eyes, and maybe the eyes turn to slits or whatever. And it's not to say that they're reptilian shapeshifters, but maybe they're seeing at one time, you know, a demonic entity surfacing that's taking up residence in someone. We know this from the Bible. We know this is possible. And so a lot of people think gang stalking is mostly demonic. A lot of people think it's only electronic and technology based. I think it's a mix of both, but I think you can definitely bring it to an end if you align yourself with the teachings of the Bible and have faith in Jesus Christ. There's at least 3 people that I know of that have had their targeting end by turning to Jesus Christ. Chris LaSala is one of them too. He has a testimonial on YouTube as well about gang stalking, but it's a subject for me that it's so heartbreaking because so many people don't know that they can turn to Jesus and bring this to an end. You know, this cripples people's lives. It's so serious. But nobody will believe them that it's happening. You know, it's just.
I believe them. On this topic, there's a few things I want to kind of spin a yarn for here. I want to mix Mandela Effect, flat Earth, and gang stalking.
Sure.
There's this concept, you probably heard of it, called an NPC, a non-playable character.
Yeah.
So in you know, for people who don't know, in Grand Theft Auto, there's loads of people walking around. Well, they are NPCs. That you can't play the character, but they're certainly there in the world, and you can interact with them and have an experience. Well, I notice there's a lot of people in the Mandela Effect community and the Flat Earth community who claim that the Earth is full of these NPCs. They're just computer programs, we'll call them. And the Earth is kind of a matrix image in this kind of example. And they talk about these NPCs. And I was thinking of gang stalking and saying, well, if this is true, the theory in the matrix is everybody's an agent. Everybody's your enemy, essentially. And it's kind of a horrible way of viewing the world, to be honest. I'm not sure if I want to see the whole world like that. But the concept that anybody can turn into an agent at any time seems similar to me, that there may be, you know, there's people in the world who are very easily used as vessels for demons at any time, any given moment, just like that. A demon can hop into that person and use them. And the person may be none the wiser that even happened to them and just carry on with their day after the event and not even remember that they did something with the demon using their body. Could gang stalking be linked to this concept in any way, shape, or form, where you're walking down the street and it seems like people are intentionally pulling out in front of you all the time on the particular road, or people are constantly tripping you up or bumping into you at this specific point, you know, where you walk past every day? So it's the same event. It's like, is that maybe happening? Have you heard of this concept? You think there may be some credence to the idea of an NPC?
Right. I'll have to, yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening. There also is a lot of video evidence of people confessing that they get paid from like the fusion centers. They get like $100 in gift cards or whatever per day if they do fulfill certain stalking techniques, or, you know, the little scripts that they have to play out to harass somebody. So I see a lot of that going on where people admit to being paid to do this. And there's like apps on your phone apparently where if you see a person and you take a picture of them, you'll get like $50 instantly, and it like contributes to the stalking because people notice you're taking a picture of them, and it's like they get, you know, it's part of their conditioning or behavior modification or whatever. But there is absolutely what you can consider. Have you seen the movie Fallen? It's with Denzel Washington. Oh, people should watch this to understand how demons can manipulate people, you know, manifest inside people and take over a bit, like get behind the driver's wheel and cause them to do things. Cody Snodgrass is the Black Ops whistleblower I was telling you about. He said that he was being targeted, and somebody in a car crashed into him, turned into the oncoming traffic lane and crashed right into him. They both were okay thank goodness. But he said when the lady got out of the driver's seat that hit him, he's like, why did you come into the oncoming traffic lane? Like, what are you thinking? And she just had like a blank look on her face, and she was just like, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. And I've heard stuff like that so many times where people seem to go just completely out of consciousness, or like it's like they get taken over. And I know, that with the eyes changing and stuff too, I've heard people that have spiritual discernment can see that. They can see when a person is being demonically possessed or coerced or driven, we'll say. And so I think that can definitely happen. I can't recommend the movie Fallen enough to understand this concept. It was almost like soft disclosure of demonic manipulation of people. But I mean, if you have, honestly, this sounds cheesy, I know, but if you have doors open to sin in your life, you got your spirit wide open for this kind of thing to happen to you. And it sounds like when stuff like that does happen, you just won't have a memory of it, or you won't understand what's going on. Drugs also do this for people. If you do drugs like meth or hallucinogenics or whatever, you have you're wide open for demonic manipulation. So anyway,
I agree with that. I've done a lot of drugs in the past, psychedelics included, and at the time, you think you're enlightened essentially, because obviously you feel like you're a god, and many people never come out of that. But I was around a lot of people who did a lot of drugs quite frequently, and you kind of, like I said, you talk about the eyes, they get this stare about them eventually, and it's not. It doesn't look nice. It's like they're looking through you, not at you. And it's not in like an enlightened way, like they can see who you really are type of thing. It's more like an emptiness, like they're looking through you, like they're no longer looking at the world anymore. They're looking at something else, or something else is looking at you through them. It's a very strange stare they start to develop. But I think I had it for a very long time. But I haven't done psychedelics in about 4 years now, 5 years, and I don't plan to do them ever again. It's like once you've seen that stuff, you don't really need to see it again. You get it. You get what's going on. You know what I mean? It's you don't really forget that kind of thing. That's what obviously clued me into the spiritual world, and that God is real and demons are real because I've seen them. You know what I mean? I get on. I can't go back to being an atheist. I've seen too much essentially, so I had to get to the conclusion that there must be a creator. Seems to be a lot of stories about this creator out there, and you find his son, and you find about the sacrifice, you find about sin and what that is, and the consequences of these things. You find out why there's a war, what the demons are up to, what their agenda is, the people helping them in the world who sacrifice things to them. It just becomes this big story. And I find it sad that these people out there who take a lot of these psychedelics claiming to be enlightened aren't willing to learn these things.
Right. It's
something completely.
It's unfortunate, it's like people that are drawn to hallucinogenics and stuff. It can often be people that are searching for a higher truth, or just truth in general, but they still don't realize the bias they have, and they're comfortable in a certain type of spiritualism, but they can't have that shattered, to wake up and to realize that, God is actually real, like what about all these people talking about Jesus, at least look at it maybe. And so some people just can't even, just will not look at that stuff. But I was going to say, my friend Jeremiah, who I interviewed on my channel, Jeremiah Cohen has a great channel, but he told me about this street preacher in Canada named David Lynn, Lynn. His stuff is unreal, unbelievable. He will do incredible street preaching in Canada, and people will come up to him. If you type in David Lynn demonic manifestations,
wear a backpack by any chance?
I think he does. But he will have people come up to him. You can tell something has hopped into some of the people that come up to him, because they are straight up demonic. They say demonic things to him, like, we're watching you, like, we know what you're doing, like, you can't touch our father, like, you can't deal with our creator, with our father, they're talking about Satan, it's clear, like they talk in the what do you say? Like we, you know, like where like, so it's like multiple demons will be speaking through him, you know, as if it's like legion in the Bible, you know, they're like multiple demons will have a voice through someone. And, you know, it's just the most bizarre thing to watch this in real life, because he has a few of these people come up to him and speak in a like demonic voice and stuff. And it's like, it sounds so cheesy, but when you see this in real life, you realize like, there's no way. I mean, he's not hiring people to come up and pretend like they're have demons surfacing. This is legit, and he's really bringing the gospel to that street, and it's a threat. It's a threat to the demonic, and he will even he'll do deliverance in the street. He'll cast however long it takes. He'll cast these things out of people, and they'll like dry heave and stuff. You can almost see it in the spirit, like things coming out. You know, you can imagine that that's what's happening because it's just so raw and real. And he videos a few different deliverance sessions, and it's so, I mean, it's so intense. You can't. There's no way. It's not acting, you know. But that's up to people to decide for themselves, I suppose. But I mean, the demonic is absolutely real, you know. We should.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Right.
I've watched all of these videos of people being not exercised. That's the wrong word I want to give, because it's kind of like a Catholic process from movies. People having spirits cast out of them. I've seen these videos myself, you know, and I've met people who quite clearly have demons, like, and in the past I wouldn't have noticed, but nowadays it's kind of like I can see it in them. The face is weird. It's the way they look at you is very strange, and it's like I'm not sure if they know sometimes that's the deal. It's like they've embraced them, and they work with their demons, and they're happy to have the demons in them. They must feel like they get some kind of power from them. I've met people at university who were outspoken Satanists who knew they had demons and were quite happy to have them in them as well. So there's the ignorant, and then there's the knowing possessed.
Right.
Like, it's a very weird world. And usually the demons don't want you to know that they're in you. They just don't want you to know that, because then the risk of being discovered and outed appears. And obviously it says in the Bible, you know, if they are cast out, it's like being kicked out of their home and sent to a barren, horrible land. They have to wander in for ages, and they're going to try and come back, you know, because where else are they going to go? You know what I mean? And it's warfare at the end of the day. You do have to be vigilant, and you do have to work on yourself, and you have to want rid of them to get rid of them. And
right.
If you don't even know they exist, how are you going to want to get rid of something you don't even believe exists? It's just it's a dark world, very dark world, I'll admit. One thing, we'll get onto this topic now, so we might as well talk about it. Your journey to finding God is something I want to talk about as well through all of this. It's something you talked about quite a lot in one of your recent videos as well, I believe. But do you want to share your story, how all of this led to this understanding of God? And also I want to talk about how you have found telling your friends and family all of these things and its effect on your relationships in life too. Right.
Well, that's a great question, because ultimately, the whole purpose of my channel is really to be a voice, another voice that's shouting about Jesus Christ and about how good he is, and to hopefully in hopes to bring people to him, to bring people to a relationship with God, because we all need him. We really, really, really do. I was a person that absolutely could not stand the thought of organized religion, or the thought that there was a creator. I was so happy with the answer just being, we're just a random accident. We're just random space dust. That's why I think the flat Earth did so much to totally flip my paradigm on its head. I totally changed my tune when I researched that, and realized that the Earth was created for us, and this heliocentric model is totally BS. So I sort of started to realize my value as a human being, a creation of a divine ultimate creator, and for a while I was searching for who that was when I woke up to all this stuff, because I was reading stuff like Zen Garcia, and a few different sort of like spiritualist thinkers, New Age thinkers, and I was obsessed with the uncalcifying my pineal gland, and that being the answer, and the cross section of a brain looking like the eye of Ra, and all that stuff. And it's just like, oh, I was trying to manifest things in my reality. I was a create your own reality person for a tidbit, and I was trying to like telepathically communicate with people on the train and like talk to trees and stuff. And I was just like, this could be a whole new frontier, but really at the end of the day, I was doing like mantras and stuff too, and listening to, binaural beats and all that stuff. But really, I think God was merciful. He didn't let me do that stuff for long. I think he wanted me to understand that that the stuff, it didn't work. And it's not to say that there's not power in some of this stuff, but there is demonic power behind stuff like certain types of meditation and whatnot. There is absolutely real power behind that, but it's not it's not the power that God allows. So anyway, I think God let me dabble in a few new age type things just to let me know, like, it's not where it was. Nothing felt right to me about any of that. I was like sun gazing too. I was like, I don't know if this is right. So I actually ended up calling my, I kept the business card of my limo driver friend who woke me up to flat earth. And I still talk to him all the time too. He's such a cool dude. Like he's, oh my God, I'm trying to get him to start a YouTube channel. But I called him in desperation because he was the only, I was looking for a truther hotline, and I couldn't find one. And I was just so sad. I was losing my mind. I was so sad and upset and just going insane. And so I called good old my good old limo driver friend, and I asked him, like, we had a 2-hour conversation. It was like the first time I had talked to him in months or whatever. And we had a conversation. I was like, look, I believe flat earth now. I believe in the Mandela Effect. I believe all these things that you told me about, but what do I do now? And I talk about this in my testimony too, but really he was instrumental in telling me in a calm and confident way and gentle way that Jesus was the answer. He's like, if you're looking for answers, he's like, why don't you open a Bible? He's like, and I was like, oh, God, you're talking about God? Like, which God are you talking about? Which Bible are you talking about? And he was just like, well, that's up to you to decide. He said, but at the end of the day, like Jesus is where it's at, basically. And he's like, you can, you have free will, you can do whatever you want, but that's the advice I'm giving you if you want the truth. And it was so gentle, it wasn't forceful. It wasn't like, you need to be saved, right? Or you're going to hell, Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a valid issue, of course, there are consequences if we don't accept Jesus, but that's not maybe the best way to bring Jesus to someone. It was so calm and gentle, and it was just like, you can take it or leave it, but that's the truth. And so that night I got down on my knees. I was still so upset. I got down on my knees and sincerely, humbly called out to God and asked him for truth. And you know what? I kind of felt this knowing that if I didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to get on my knees and pray because I was so independent. I didn't need no one was going to be the boss of me. I didn't need any controllers or any God that was going to tell me what to do. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I can't I can't get to the ultimate truth without first at least trying again the Christian God. I have to at least try. And so I humbly called out in prayer, and I was answered in just a totally clear as crystal way that God is real, and he's always been with me, and he's always with all of us, and he's just, like the Bible says, Jesus is just waiting at the door, he's like knocking at your door, but he's not gonna kick the door down. He's not gonna force his way into your life. But so that night, August 19th, I accepted Jesus into my heart, and called my dad up later that night. My dad's Christian, and I told him in a really sheepish voice that I found God, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I think I found God tonight. And he's like really happy for me. And the next morning I threw out all my weird like satanic imagery and all this stuff I had spent so much money on. It's like Satan socks and it was just so stupid, you know, all this stuff I'd collected. I threw all that stuff out, and haven't looked back since. I've only grown stronger in my faith every day. And I mean, I guess, you know, what I would say to someone who is highly skeptical of people recounting their experiences like this, I would say, Richard Dawkins is a famous atheist, and he talks about like, how can you say just because you've had a personal private experience with what you call God, how can that hold up to scientific investigation or whatever? How can that be considered like scientific proof in any way? Well, all I would say to that is, the truth is in our testimony. What is that verse in the Bible? I'm so bad with recounting Bible verses, but you will something about the word of our testimony, is the way we're going to bring people to God. And it's just like, there are so many testimonies of Jesus changing people's lives, taking them out of whatever addiction they're in, taking them out of thoughts of suicide, taking them out of any terrible situation Jesus can bring you out of if you let him. And there's just millions of testimonies. I'm sure you've seen plenty, but it's like, it would be weird if there was just a psychological weakness or disorder where people just get obsessed with a man named Jesus, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. We'd have to look at these testimonies, just like testimonies of targeted individuals. They all corroborate each other. They all paint a picture of a phenomenon that's going on. We have testimonies of people that become born again. That paints a picture from millions of people out of their mouths. That paints a beautiful picture of a phenomenon that's going on. That is just there's just too many voices that say the same thing for it to be total BS. Mm-hmm. And I just think not enough people are looking at it or will listen, and they're biased against there being the truth of God. They're biased against having to change their lifestyles to accommodate this truth. That's a whole other thing. You got to give up sin. You got to try to stop sinning, and nobody wants to do that. But if you want the truth, man, like you gotta have control over your life. You got to live according to God's standards when he created us, as it's outlined in the Bible. So it's been a tough road, but I'm just really glad to know God now. I can't imagine living in this world, being awake and not knowing God. What hope do you have? What hope? You have no hope if you don't know God. So.
Well, I think, as you said, the proof of God, or at least the proof of his power, is in the change in people who have found him. Right. Many reformed criminals who found God in prison, and people always scoff at that, like, oh, well, whatever. They're just saying that to get out of prison early or something, or, well, of course they're going to get converted in prison. That's just what happens to them, or something like that. But it's not just that idea. I think that's why they call them convents, isn't it? 'Cause it's kind of like they're to try and make a covenant with God again. That's why they send them to prison originally. It was a Christian idea. Give them time to be alone so they can think about the sin, and hopefully they'll come back to God. That was the idea behind that. But other than that, even in my own life, I was a narcissistic, self-obsessed, sex-driven, drug-obsessed driven, artistically minded hedonist. That's what I was. I was an atheist. I hated God and that idea. I essentially... Right. Even though I wasn't never a new age, I was never into the wishy-washy stuff, I did have new age principles in the sense that, well, if there is a God, it's me. It was that kind of Satanism. Right. I didn't know it was Satanism. I didn't think of it in that term. It's just to read it, you know what I mean? Well, I only know what exists in my own head, essentially. So how am I supposed to, consider anything else outside of that? No consideration for other people. And then obviously the process of, well, I guess I started to learn about God in 2011, but I didn't really accept him until 2015, 16, just after I had finished university. I remember I was in Newcastle on a stag do, of all things. And
a stag do?
Yeah, stag do. So I was with, it was my sister's husband now. It was his stag do. So I was off partying in Newcastle, you know what I mean? And obviously we went to a strip club and all of these things at the time, and it was just,
you mean a bachelor party?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Party.
That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
That's
a regional thing. Sorry about that, but yeah, it was a bachelor party, I guess you would call it in America. Yeah, sure. And at the end of that night, it was the day after the whole experience of just doing the craziness, basically. I'd been learning about the truth for so long, and this idea of Jesus and sin had been batting around in my head. I was just about to leave my art school and get into the real world, and I was just contemplating, like, what am I doing with my life now? What's my direction? What is all of this been for, essentially? What is all of this? And I remember that night, it was weird. I had a bath, okay? Now, I know this might sound strange, but I have a shower cubicle at my home, so I haven't actually had a bath by this point in like 10 years. I had had a tub available to do that, so I was having showers. I think I accidentally baptized myself that night, because I remember submerging myself in the bath water and then having this rush of energy come straight through me. I had to get out of the water and like what the hell is that type of thing? And since that day, I have never been the same. And slowly, my hedonism disappeared. I don't want to go out and party and drink anymore, unless it's unnecessarily, if you get what I mean. I like to have fun, but I'm not just going to drink for no reason.
Right.
Or go out and just for the sake of it, because I hate life, I just want to forget about it, or something like that at the end of the week, or because I got paid. It's not a good enough reason anymore.
Right.
I didn't want to, well, it's not that I didn't want to have sex, but the desire and the drive was gone. It was kind of like that wasn't my focus in life anymore.
Right.
It was over. And I guess I don't know, I grew up rapidly. I got some direction. I got sensible. I got a job. You know what I mean? Actually,
right.
It just changed that day, and I'm not the same person anymore. My personality is completely different. I actually care about people now, and I want to help people. And it's not. I don't know. Things have just not been the same. And people have commented it like. And I had one friend when I got back from university who I heard was talking about me behind my back, and he was saying like, "What the hell's happened to Paul? Like,
he's not fun anymore."
Like, what the hell happened to him? You know what I mean? That type of thing. And I just laughed to myself, like, yeah, what did happen, Paul? What did happen? Because it's just
right.
I'm thankful for it. You know what I mean? I really am. And it's kind of, I just didn't see it coming. I get like, I wouldn't have thought I would be in this position 5 years ago. I wouldn't have thought everything would be the way it is. I wouldn't think I would have this perspective on the world. I never ever thought I'd be the type of guy to say Jesus Christ is real and you need to pay attention to this. It's just not who I was. I was not that guy. And but I think
you plan to be an evangelist.
Well, I'm not an evangelist exactly. I'm not that type of guy still now, but I won't back down when people talk about it or ask me about it and these type of things. I don't force it on anybody, but if they bring it up, I'll give them my opinion straight. You know what I mean? And I guess I get all sorts of funny looks. I've lost friends, but I've also gained friends from talking about these things as well. It's definitely a process, absolutely, but it's one worth going through. It's not like an overnight change. I think a lot of people think when you're born again, suddenly, literally, you've just become a new person, and I don't fully trust that. I think it's a process of losing the weight, the baggage over time, because there's some things you don't want to let go of straight away. There's just, like I've only recently just given up cannabis about 50 days ago, and now,
congratulations.
Well, this is an 8-year addiction I'm talking about here. Done. And the amazing thing is, I don't have the urge to go back. Literally,
that's wonderful.
But I never wanted to take the step. I was always terrified of losing that final crutch for the world.
Right.
With the world. I guess it's cheesy, but I'm putting it on God now.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? And it
absolutely.
does sound cheesy, but this is what I mean. I remember how I used to think. It's like,
Yep.
what am I saying? You know what I mean? This is not how I would speak. This is not.
Christianese. It's like a whole language into itself. But really, it's a way to give respect and to acknowledge, the power behind why you've changed. I
Mm,
mean, God is real, and He deserves all the credit for this change in our life. And
mm,
that you think of like the capital H He and Him, and you think of like old lady church ladies talking about Lord, Lord this and Lord that. But really, when you have had your life turned upside down, and all the bad junk like spills out of your trench coat, and you get turned right side up again, and you're just all the baggage of sin in your life and bad character traits, bad personality traits, things that made you really hate yourself in the end, but you couldn't even see it. All that's been stripped away from you, and the only thing that has done that is the Holy Spirit. Is Jesus Christ, His effect in your life. So I mean, how you get to a certain point where you just start speaking like a Christian, but that's because you respect and you appreciate who has changed your life, and that's God. There's
mm.
no other way around it, So I mean, praise God. Like,
That's
never
exactly.
thought I'd talk like the old church lady, but whatever, man. I mean, that's who's responsible for me even speaking right now on a platform like this. Otherwise, I would have been scared to death. There's no way.
But
I wouldn't have cared I wouldn't have cared to do it anyway.
mm,
I was only thinking about myself. It's just like once you're born again, you just realize you get this perspective that there are so many ways that God can use you for good. If you thought originally like you're just living this selfish existence and there's nothing good you can do, maybe you were depressed about your role in life, or like your I don't even know, your efficacy as a person, you just didn't think you had any purpose. Well, God gives you purpose, and we all can help each other, and that's what we're supposed to be doing as human beings. That's what feels good intrinsically. Otherwise, you do get depressed. You're just,
nihilism is rife in our generation. I mean, you
oh,
made a video yourself, didn't you, about who you used to be before you became born again? That's the phrase I'm going to use. No, obviously, this is something I want to talk about briefly. You were essentially a kind of SJW by today's standards,
oh yeah.
a social justice warrior, rainbow person, as you would call
Right,
it. You
right,
know? And so was
right,
I. I had like peroxide white hair with like a purple or black strip in there, really long fringe.
right,
I was wearing like tight electric blue skinny jeans or something stupid like that. I
right,
have a few tattoos here and there. I have a peace symbol on my arm. I have a smiley face here as well. And also, I was that guy. And
right.
you seem to be being that person. It seems something our age group has suffered through and has the scars to deal with now in our middle ages. Like we have to deal with it stuff now and our past. Do you want to talk about that some more? About
Yeah, yeah. It was just funny to make that video, because it feels, I'm fairly new. I'm a fairly new Christian, but in the about like year and a half since I've been born again, I just taking a look back on my life before that happening. It's just, all I see is sort of. Uh, the fact that I was someone that had been so susceptible to the social engineering that's going on in our culture these days. And what is it? What is the social engineering that's going on for millennials, or Generation Y, or I don't even know what we're called. I'm 30 years old myself. I don't know how old you are, but they trapped us. They had us in this like flavor of Satanism that we didn't even know was Satanism. It was just straight up hedonism. We're only caring about our appearance. We're only caring about such shallow surface things. Everybody's trying to be this like unique, flashy, like exciting person and just party, 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 go to music festivals, have lots of sex, do drugs, whatever. That's your purpose in living. Live fast, die young, you know, like you just drink and drink and drink and drink and enjoy the fleeting pleasures of this life while you can, because we're just space dust after all, and you know, all we have is the here and now, right? And so in the end, I mean, thinking like that and the narrative that scientism fleshes out for us, how can it not make you so egotistical and only living for pleasure, you know, because it's just, you could die at any moment and whatever. And so, you know, going to art school was really fun and everything. But you know what, I just, looking back at it now, I just realized what a trap that was, and how that did absolutely nothing for my character to think in such a shallow, surface level way, where everything is just about how many exciting things you can do to show off to your friends, all the places you can travel to, the clothes you wear, who you're hanging out with, what kind of designer drugs you're doing. It's just like, we're not being socially engineered to really like care about real issues other than like SJWs, but it's caring about like race wars and the weaponization of language and like trans everything, like transgender and what, you know, what all this sort of stuff that is meant to trap us and bring division. And it's all these narratives that are being like, and agendas that are being forced upon us by our satanic controllers. And I mean, I know it sounds really crazy, but it's just like, I noticed, you know, all my friends, even now on Facebook, I have 2 Facebook accounts. One is my Christian Truther Facebook account. One's my old Facebook account. And I'll hop back there on my old one and see what people are talking about. And it's all just what they've heard on NPR. It's parroting. It's people parroting what they've heard, you know, folks on NPR say, and you know, Stephen Colbert and people like that. And it's all, people don't realize how much how much their thoughts are being engineered and directed. And only when you grow in God do you kind of like break out of that, and you start thinking for yourself. You start lining up your opinions and to the truth of the Bible. You start lining up things that are happening in this world, the opinions of the world, the opinions of you know, what's popular. You line that up to the Bible, and you realize like there's a big divide there, you know, like there's some serious social engineering going on by the powers that be to subvert everything in the Bible, you know, to go against everything in the Bible. So, you know, I'm thankful to God for bringing me out of the sort of the patterns of thinking to only live for self. That's done with, you know. I would so much truly rather live to help other people now, you know, and to not live for money or clothes or like cheap pleasures of the world. It just doesn't appeal anymore, you know, once you've been born again. So I used to have to drink so much. I had such bad social anxiety. I had to drink so much before I would go out. I would love to get drunk all the time, just to make a mess of myself. I don't drink it anymore at all. Like it doesn't even appeal to me, because you can see how much that just deadens your motivation, just deadens your spirit, brings you down. I would so much rather research and help people now. You know, that's exciting for me now. So anyway, yeah, it's quite a difference the Holy Spirit makes in your life, you know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, yeah. One thing on this rainbow people idea, obviously this social justice thing where people are, I don't know, spray painting their armpits purple, like,
right?
You know, all sorts of things. It's obviously social Marxism. It's a form of new age communism, essentially.
Right.
It's an anti-Western ideology. It's an anti-Christian ideology through and through.
Right.
It's a satanic ideology masked as some kind of political movement. And it's very sad. It has its grip on the minds of many young people. But I also see characters like Jordan Peterson on the rise, who is reigniting the passion in the Western youth to understand where our roots come from, where our ideas come from, with the Christian basis to our society as well, and the laws and rules and God. These ideas do seem to be making a comeback because there is such now an aversion to these new age ideas that are taking over. People are looking at the social justice warriors and just feeling sick, like, I don't want anything to do with this. What's the alternative? And more people are finding God. So I am hopeful. I have faith that we'll win in the end. And more people will come to the truth, but there's definitely going to be a horrible battle in the meantime. And they aren't going to go down without a fight, that's for sure. So it's all we have to do is kind of be there as a light in the darkness for people to come to, you know, just to, and people might not believe us now, but when the, you know, the shit hits the fan, they're going to remember that people like us exist and we're saying this stuff, and then they'll come looking for the answers. But for now, they may laugh and mock and scoff, but you know, their time will come, that's for sure. I have another theory which I thought was quite interesting, which I'll use. You know, we were talking before we started about the Nephilim clown connection.
Oh yeah.
I think this whole rainbow people idea is literally perhaps a demonic manifestation of the Nephilim in the people. Oh, the disembodied spirits of these monsters. I think seeing them manifest in these narcissistic, hedonistic vessels, we'll call them. So can we be surprised they wear incredibly colorful rainbow clothing and dress themselves up like clowns? Essentially, can we be surprised? Maybe not. So that's something I'll just throw in there to that idea. We've been going for an hour and a half. That's a good amount of time. That's a good enough time. If we go any further, people just will lose retention and not want to even watch the video.
Right.
So I think we'll round it up here. Thanks for joining. Is there anything you want to say to wrap this up? And I think we'll leave it there.
Oh man, I just, you know, what you just said is so interesting, and that's kind of what I tried to hint at the video I was doing about the rainbow people. Like, this is what, you know, Satan likes to twist symbols of God, you know, and twist the word of God. He's making the rainbow, just like we're seeing all these rainbow Mandela effects. He's twisting the rainbow and making, you know, everybody is just going for these like rainbow trends. You know, you're just changing who you are as a creation of God, you know, and you become attracted to that kind of imagery and that kind of like way to you know, adjust yourself if you have doors open to sin, or if you're not putting God first. You know, it's like what we're seeing in people as far as like those kind of trends these days is just like a man, you know, that's just indicative of you know, what's happening to our culture at large, and the satanic agenda that's going on. I mean, it's really interesting to see this as a trend. But yeah, that's good food for thought. Maybe we can do another talk again, because I could talk forever about the demonic sort of like clown or jester connection too. And I love that you have so many videos about it. I have to watch more, because I mean, I was talking to you about like people's ayahuasca testimonies and them seeing jesters and clown. They call it like the jester archetype, and it's just like people doing hallucinogenic drugs, and this is something they mentioned. And even when I was in art school, you know, I was dressing myself up like a clown, like in costumes and a mime. I was a street performer as a mime, mask, like face painted in a mask, and I was only attracted to like men who liked to dress up like women in like a certain point of my life, and like to paint their faces and stuff. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not like that anymore. Like that would be a huge turnoff to me now. But when I was like that, it's like that's what I wanted. I wanted like. And in fact, I was dating a clown for a while. It's just interesting. Like, I don't know. I mean, I do feel like it
pervades our life in ways we haven't even noticed until you see it. Until you've just pointed out, you don't actually realize just how deep all this clown demon stuff goes.
Totally.
It's terrifying. And in terms of the ayahuasca, I've covered it all. Honestly,
yeah.
It's all there's like 16 episodes now.
Oh. I gotta watch that. That's incredible that you picked up on that too.
They call it the Jungian archetype of the jester archetype. It's this idea of a personality that comes to us to teach us wisdom and make us not take life so seriously when we take DMT or dream, let's say. But I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this archetype thing. I think, you know, these entities are there, and everyone sees them for the same entity for a reason. It's because they're actually there. And there's a reason why that there's a whole history you're ignoring because you're going off evolutionary psychology. Forget all that. There's actually a real history of giants that existed who died and their spirits are trapped in a realm. And there's a whole, literally thousands of years of history to look into there, why they exist and why they are there. And we can tell you what they looked like. They looked crazy. They had white skin, probably blood all over them, all over their mouth with a red nose, crazy wild red hair. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like anything we can understand today?
Right.
Maybe now we know why Shriners dress up like clowns. You know, this Freeman. What are they really venerating? Who are they talking about? You know, where does the clown come from? And they say, this is the irony, okay? They say, well, it's the jester archetype. It's a collective unconscious image over millions of years of collective ideas of the jester figure. But the jester didn't even exist in Western culture till the 1600s. So you're telling me an archetype has developed in only 400 years into the collective consciousness of all of mankind? In 400 years? Are you kidding me? When you really scrutinize the idea, it falls apart rapidly. And when you have just a little bit of knowledge of ancient history, it becomes very clear. So hopefully it will spread. Hopefully people will understand. Because like you said, people just seem to be possessed to put on a mask.
Right. And I was. And now I'm not at all.
It's really common. And what is makeup but a mask? What is dyeing your hair a completely different color and, you know, editing your body with piercings? It's a mask of some kind. You're changing your form to, I think, look more like what's really inside you.
Right.
That's what it is at the end of the day.
I never really thought about that till I heard you say that in the video you did about the loss of relationships, and I was like, wow, that's something to think about. That's real brain candy, you know. So anyway.
We'll leave it there. Thanks for joining me, Meeks. It's been a pleasure. We will do it again sometime. That's fine. I would like to get a few people together to do a group chat.
That would be great.
That'd be great. On this as well. I think
maybe Jeffy could join us at some point too.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think he wouldn't mind doing that at all. He seems to have been very busy in the chat. I'll obviously read it after we've uploaded this, but sorry I haven't been more active in the chat.
Yeah, I haven't seen the chat at all, guys, but thank you for watching. That's awesome.
No problem at all. And again, thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure. And of
course. All right. Well, thanks so much for inviting me. And this has just been food, like candy for the soul. So anyway, God bless you. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you later.
Bye now.
Have a good night. Bye.